guys, it's Dani, and welcome back to another video. You know what I realized? I realized that the more you get frustrated with your friends or your family or other people in general, just not understanding you or not getting you or not seeing reality from your perspective or understanding life from your level or having the same level of self-awareness of their trauma and the more you focus on that, the less satisfied you're going to feel with those relationships. And the less satisfied you're going to feel with the relationships that come in. And this really ties into what I talked about in my last video, which is when you focus on what you don't want, when you focus on what you don't like, when you focus on what does not appeal to you, what you are going to see is more of that. So in the context of relationships, what you are going to see is how people don't get you, how people don't understand you, how people don't respect your perspective, how people are unable to see things from your perspective, and therefore, every single time a new person does come into your life, even if they have the capacity to really be with you and understand you and feel you, all you're going to see is how they don't fit the bill of that. All you're going to see is how they do not align to that perspective, because that is where your focus is. I truly think the best way that we can develop the most satisfying, loving, open, vulnerable, compassionate relationships is to start and accept where we are. And I don't mean this to say like, basically your life now is just the way things are. You have the friends you have the relationships you have, so deal with it. Just convince yourself that it's good. No. I'm not asking you to settle for where you are and to say, you know what, this is fine, this is good enough, I guess. No, what I'm asking you to do is to use this as a set point, as a place for you to launch into what you really do want. But here's the thing, if you keep focusing on what doesn't feel good, on what doesn't feel right, on what isn't aligned to you, on the fact that there's certain people in your life who still make you feel like you're not good enough or you're misunderstood or that nobody could really understand your perspective, and you continue to focus on that story, then that story is going to continue. You have to be the one to change the momentum, because right now you're perpetuating this momentum of I'm not satisfied in my friendships, I'm not satisfied in my relationships. Let's think about something for a second. We're gonna take a short detour, but it's gonna come back to this topic, okay? Just stay with me. Let me give you an example. Let's say there is a person who you are attracted towards, and you are at a bar, for example, and they come up to you and they're like, hi, you're very attractive. Can I get your number? And you might be like, oh my gosh, like this person is asking me for my number. Look how cute they are. Look how sweet they are. Like, you think all these positive thoughts, you see what you want in the situation, and therefore you will be more receptive to this moment. Whereas in another situation, maybe it's your gut feeling, maybe it's just the thoughts going through your head, but whatever it is, someone can say the exact same words to you, approach you with the same kind of demeanor, and you have a completely different response. And this is not a good or bad thing. It is just telling you, are you in alignment in this moment? And I'm not saying that one way of thinking is correct and one way of thinking is incorrect, but what I am trying to outline to you, it is not the physical happenings that completely dictates how you feel in that situation. It is what you think about what is happening that dictates how you feel in that situation. It is how you interpret or perceive the situation that determines what you feel like. So when I'm talking about friendships, when I'm talking about connecting with people, what I want you to see is that your current level of satisfaction is not dependent on the people outside of you. And look, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you need to satisfy every need yourself. What I'm saying is that we can progress further and further and further kind of up this scale of feeling good. And as we progress up this scale, our physical circumstances will start to meet us there. Because when we focus on what we want, we start to make decisions with what we want in mind, as opposed to what we don't want in mind. As we focus more on what we want and what we like, the more that becomes what we see in our reality because we are looking for it. That is not to say that what you don't want is invalid or something that you just ignore, or just to tolerate someone treating you like absolute poopy head, like poop, like smelly diaper poop baby. It's not about accepting something that you do not want to accept or tolerating something that is unfair. It's about shifting your perspective so that by the time new people come into your life, you are seeing ways in which they can be a resource to you as opposed to ways in which they can be a detriment to you. And also you are taking off this pressure of, I need friends, I need good friends, I need friends who are X, Y, and Z and B and D and all these things. And you realize that, oh my gosh, this person fits all these things I need in a friend, and this person fits all these things I need in a friend, but not one person is necessarily going to fit 100% of the bill. I want you to start looking at the people in your life and see what resources are they providing me. So for example, let's say you have this whole list of criteria of what you want in a friend. And let's say you want someone who makes you laugh from the pit of your stomach. You want someone who's really smart and intellectual. You want someone who understands you on a spiritual level. You want someone who is kind. You want someone who helps strangers. You want someone who, knows a lot about the world. You want someone who knows a lot about a lot of different cultures. Like, you want people who fit all of these different boxes, right? Sometimes when we expect every person in our life to check pretty much every single one of these boxes, we end up only seeing where people fall short. Oh, this person doesn't make me laugh that hard. This person isn't a spiritual person. This person doesn't do this right. This person doesn't do that right. This person is annoying me this way, and this person is annoying me that way. And all you're focusing on is how these people aren't enough for you. And then you wonder why you don't feel good enough. But let's like shift the tune a little bit. Let's shift into a new perspective and be like, okay, I'm going to sit here and recognize that at this point in time, from where I am standing, I do feel the state of dissatisfaction. And since I know that the way I feel is not just because of my physical circumstances, the way that I feel is because of the way I am thinking about my physical circumstances, I have to start focusing on what is going to make me feel better in these physical circumstances. Let's look at the people in my life now. My dad makes me laugh from the pit of my stomach. My mom is someone who's very kind and generous and thinks about other people. I have this friend who is, on the spiritual journey and who is working towards this path of self-awareness or well-being. And instead of focusing on how each one of these people doesn't fit certain criteria that you have, you're focusing on what needs are getting met. And if you are focusing on the fact that so many of your desires are being fulfilled around you today, then you realize that when you have desires that aren't being fulfilled, that they must be fulfilled. They are going to be fulfilled. Because if all these other things can be fulfilled, why can't that be fulfilled? It's like if you want to have a relationship with someone who's really, really physically affectionate, if you see it around you, why do you not believe that that can be for you? Unless all you're focusing on is what you don't have. Unless all you're focusing on is what's lacking in your relationships. So for example, I could sit here and complain none of my friends back home are texting me right now. Nobody has really given me a call. Nobody's really shot me a text. Everybody's just giving me shallow, surface level responses. Or I can say, I'm so lucky that it just so happens that I have a friend who's in Europe at the same time as me. We just so happen to have pieces of our trip that are overlapping with each other. And so I get to travel with this longtime friend without even trying. I really like that when I go home, I'm going to see all of these people and I'm going to have so many stories to tell, and they're going to have so many stories to tell, and I just get to catch up with all these people that I haven't seen in a long time. I am so grateful that I've gotten to meet people from all over the world. I think it's cool that I have friends who, even though they don't always want to share the dark or vulnerable or highly emotional thoughts on their mind, when I share what I have to say, they listen and they're there and they support me and they don't judge me. I can either focus on that and focus on what needs people are meeting for me, or I can focus on what people aren't meeting for me. I have spent, even after being on this path of well-being for a really long time, I still found that I was focused on what I don't want. And I felt like I had to focus on what I don't want in order to get to what I do want. But what I realized is when it comes to friendships and when it comes to relationships, you start to have a much deeper sense of appreciation and gratitude for what the people in your life do offer you. You don't take advantage of the resources that they provide. You don't take things for granted. You start to honor and cherish and see the holiness and the preciousness in everybody, because you see how every single person has something to offer you, and you don't turn that away away just because you see certain flaws or you see certain things that you don't want. And look, I don't want you to use my words as an excuse to accept less than your worth. I don't want you to listen to my words and now, you are accepting highly toxic behavior from your friends and just saying, oh, well, at least they're funny. I'm not telling you to sacrifice your integrity for the sake of maintaining friendships and relationships. But honestly, I think if we start to shift our perspective to this other place, a lot of those people who are unhealthy or who don't respect you, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, I've found that I actually don't really need to cut people off. I mean, I have, but every single time there's a friendship that isn't working or doesn't feel healthy, the more that I come into tune with myself, the more that these things just kind of like fall off. I don't have to try to change the nature of these relationships. Either I evolve and people evolve with me and align with me in the ways that they do, and I suddenly see, oh, I'm actually a lot more aligned to this person than I realized. I just didn't see it because I was focused on what I don't want. Or there's people who I think are absolutely going to be aligned to me, and then I continue moving towards what feels good, and they just sort of fall off because we're not in resonance anymore. But my point in sharing this message is to tell you that if you want better friendships and better relationships, start focusing on how you already have that. And I understand that's hard to hear because it's like, well, I don't have that. Focus in how you do. Focus in what is already working out for you. It's so strange saying this because a couple videos ago was a video that I did about loneliness. Having it feel like people only understand me 50%. But that's the thing. Let's say that's the truth. People only understand me 50% and I feel dissatisfied because of that. This is literally a glass half full or glass half empty type thing, right? Like, okay, people only understand me 50%. Am I going to focus on the 50% in which they do understand me and therefore attract more things into my conscious mind of people understanding me, people understanding me, people understanding me, people loving me, people accepting me, people not judging me? Or am I going to focus on the 50% of people not doing that, basing my behaviors based off of that? Feeling fearful that people are going to reject me because they don't get me. People are going to judge me because they don't get me. People are never going to, want to support my success because they don't understand where I'm coming from. There's always going to be people who judge you. There's always going to be people who don't accept you because there's always going to be contrast. But there's also always going to be things that feel good. So what are you going to focus on?
Hey, it's editing Dani, or more accurately, it's Dani who went on a walk and realized there's something that I forgot to say that I feel like is important to this topic. When you're focused on what parts of a connection are good or what parts of a friendship are good, then you're more likely to put yourself in situations where you have those opportunities to connect. And when you put yourself in those situations where you have those opportunities to connect with people, you start to connect with people more and more, and you realize that maybe some of these people that you may have judged as being unable to understand you in certain ways, you realize are actually capable of relating to you and understanding you and holding space for you even when maybe they don't relate to exactly what you feel. But my point is, when we start to focus on what we like and what we enjoy, we start to put ourselves in that position of even having the opportunities of experiencing more of that because we believe it's possible, because we believe it's there. And the more we focus on the fact of people don't understand me, people don't understand me, it starts to become a belief that starts operating outside of the relationships you have now. I mean, what is a belief other than a thought that you keep thinking? If you want to develop those friendships that really authentically feel good, then maybe it's time for us to kind of surrender that belief and realize, maybe I can start putting my attention on the ways in which I can connect with people rather than what isn't working right now. And if you have to bask in the shittiness of the shit, that is totally valid. Yeah, that's all. Interlude over. Love you. Bye.
Haven't you noticed that when someone makes you feel safe, you become a better friend to them? When you feel safe in a situation, you feel more safe to be yourself, you feel more safe to be open, you feel more safe to give compliments freely, to provide things for them freely, just wanting to give and to love. When someone is acting from a place that feels like unsafe or closed off or, fearful, and they might project certain beliefs or past experience that happened to them onto you because they're afraid of you hurting them the same way they've been hurt before, sometimes you end up feeling closed off. You end up not feeling safe in that situation. You end up feeling like you're gonna get hurt. and everybody's closing themselves off and kind of backing into their own corner. So maybe consider that the safer you feel within yourself, the safer your relationships are going to feel. And that the relationships that don't feel safe, you're instantly going to be like, okay, this is not a safe relationship. I know I'm safe within myself. I know I'm centered within myself. I know that I know how to come into alignment with myself. I know that I know what a good friendship and a good relationship feels like because I experience that within myself. Every point you're at is at a launching point to the next point in your life. So even if right now doesn't feel the best, that means that where you're going next has an opportunity to feel better than that. And not feeling good is not bad. Not feeling good is a message to you that is a moment in which you get to more truly, deeply understand what you are not, and therefore that will help redirect you towards what you are. Long story short, thank you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do all the things, click all the buttons, and I will see you all in another video. Bye. I love you. Beach. I ain't never gonna stop loving you. Beach. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh shit. Oh shit.